artillery weapon. That sounds good.
I think most of you will remember the thrill of clipping those purchase proofs for your G.I. Joe figures. That giddiness of mailing that envelope to Hasbro and that waiting for weeks, sometimes even weeks for the package to arrive at your doorsteps. Those were the days which many 80s kids remember, and by that you also know which figurine I'm talking about. Yeah, it was none other than Duke, who was not someone you get from the shelf easily because he was this mail-away exclusive in the year 1983. When that box finally arrived, you got this clean-cut Conard S.Hauser with a M32 submachine gun in hand, all set, ready to charge against Cobra. His character, by the way, has not been limited to just an exclusive toy because he became the face of G.I. Joe across cartoons, comics, movies, even appeared in the fresh miniseries from Skybound's Energon universe. Today we are unpacking every Duke origin, so without wasting any time, let's get into it. Who is Duke? Before we get into the different continuities, let's first answer, who is this Duke? He is not a mysterious ninja like Snake Eyes, or a gadget genius like Scarlet. Rather, he is the everyman soldier who always ends up leading from the front. His full name is Conard S.Hauser, born in St. Louis, Missouri, and whether you see him listed as First Sergeant or Master Sergeant, he's almost always the tactical boss on the field, barking orders like a seasoned general and having the troops follow without question. Duke enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1967, finished at the top of his class at jump school, went through language training, joined the Green Berets, and earned decorations like the Medal of Honor and Bronze Stars for pulling off impossible rescues in Vietnam before he ever put on a G.I. Joe patch. Speaking toy-wise, we all know that Duke was one of the first mail-away action figures in the year 1983 for the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, but soon, the very next year, his carded figure was released as a part of the third series. Then in 1988, his figure was repainted and released as the leader of Tiger Force line. From the early 1990s onward, Duke kept returning in new versions across multiple lines, including Battle Corps and Star Brigade. Hasbro even released a 12-inch, which is 30 centimeters, action figure of Duke in the G.I. Joe Hall of Fame collection. When the 25th anniversary rolled in, Duke was in an entirely new mold, and he was released in a packed box with Scarlet, Snake Eyes, Gung Ho, and Roadblock. In fact, when G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra came out in 2009, Hasbro was fast enough to drop at least 2 figures of Duke. The first one was called Desert Ambush because Duke decked out in a desert camo outfit. Meanwhile, the second one is called Reactive Impact Armor, where he's rocking a stylish black uniform from the movie. That's not all. In 2011, when the 30th anniversary rolled in, Duke's action figure was released under G.I. Joe Renegades. The very next year, that is 2012, 3 new versions of Duke came out, with the last one named Conard Duke Hauser that actually connects him with the G.I. Joe Retaliation movie. In the second quarter of 2020, we saw the launch of the G.I. Joe Classified series, and in this new line here was this highly articulated 6-inch action figures of popular characters, with one of them being Duke. Duke's origin in the Marvel Comics. When it comes to the G.I. Joe series by Marvel Comics, Duke's character makes his appearance in issue number 22, and it was literally the time when the Joe team was struggling. Their base, the Pit, was destroyed, and not only that, but their leader, General Flagg, was also dead. During the General's funeral, when they were attacked by a Rattler plane, it was Duke and Roadblock who shot down the plane before it crashed on top of General Flagg's bier. It is said that Duke joined the G.I. Joe team to help them get back on track and become the new field commander. We see Duke in this first mission in issue number 23, which is to monitor the Baroness and Major Blood at a surgery clinic in Switzerland. After keeping tabs for some time, a battle occurs which in the end leads to the capture of Cobra Commander. But Commander's capture isn't for long because in issue number 24, we see Duke trying to keep Cobra Commander in the mountain base, but he is rescued by the ninja Storm Shadow. We see Duke next in issue 28, where he is going to Florida with Roadblock, where they meet up with Deep Six and Cutter, and they are taking the whale hovercraft in the Everglades to attack Zartan's hideout, obviously. In the following issue, we see Whale getting stolen by Destro and Firefly, so Duke and Wild Bill chase them in a copter called Dragonfly to get it back. Duke is later seen appearing in issue 33, which is kind of a big moment for him. Why? Because here we see the opening ceremony of the Pit headquarters, and Hawk announces Duke as the new field commander, and not only that, he will be the top sergeant of the G.I. Joe team. Yay! I think the next issue where Duke appears is in issue 33, where he is on a new mission to investigate a suspected Cobra agent on Staten Island. It's unfortunate that the agent escapes, but he actually leaves clues about a Cobra operation, which will take place in the Gulf of Mexico. So Duke does what he does the best, which is leading an assault team against the newly formed Cobra Island, but he was forced to draw back because that island was officially recognized as a sovereign state. He doesn't stop because next we see Duke invading Springfield, a town which is controlled by Cobra, and when the Cobra Civil War arc arrives, Duke serves as second in command to Hawk. Around issues 74 to 76, Duke is training new members of the Joe team, after which he is leading a mission to drive Cobra out of Trucial Abysmia, but faces strong resistance. And to make things more difficult, Duke's squad gets captured, and due to a misinterpreted order, several men are killed. But after such hard time, the ones who survived escape in a Cobra rage tank, which is destroyed, and that tragically causes even more casualties. But don't worry, Duke, Cross Country, and Lieutenant Falcon somehow manage to return safely. Around issue 130 to 131, we see Duke defending the pit against Cobra attacks, and he leads a covert mission to reclaim Cobra Island from Firefly and the Red Ninjas. Here, he is actually the leader of the Star Brigade, and he teams up with the October Guard to destroy an asteroid that threatens Earth. Duke continues to serve with G.I. Joe until it disbands. Duke across Sunbow animated series. In the 1983 animated miniseries, The Mass Device, Duke, a key character, is voiced by Michael Bell. After the catchy intro, we see Duke supervising the landing of new fighter jets, the Sky Striker XP-14F, as the villainous group Cobra attacks G.I. Joe headquarters. After a quick battle, Cobra retreats, but not before causing serious damage to the Joe's planes. Duke immediately puts his team on high alert. Later, Duke is tasked by General Flagg with testing the security of a military site that houses an important relay star satellite. Little do they know that there is a spy among them, and things take a turn in favor of Cobra when he teleports there to steal the satellite. And Duke gets caught in the energy wave of a powerful device known as the Mass Device. All the while he was trying to catch Baroness. He ends up as a prisoner in Cobra's lair, and he notices this weird headband on all the enslaved people that keeps them mindless. Later, he is taken to compete in a dangerous gladiator-style arena run by Cobra Commander, where he faces a giant opponent. In the beginning, he is struggling because he's wearing that headgear, and it's controlling his moves like a robot you control with a remote. Amidst the struggle, Duke gets help from a young woman named Selena, who gives him a gold strip that helps him escape the control of the arena. After a daring escape, Duke is able to return to G.I. Joe headquarters, but he can't remember much about his time in captivity or where Cobra's main base is located. There is only one thing he remembers, and that was the girl who helped him out, Selena. Despite this memory loss, he appeared to be okay, and once the doctor checked him, he notified him that Duke was ready for duty, but he would still attempt to recover his memories with Doc's help, but still couldn't remember where Cobra is hiding. This is why Duke takes on a dangerous mission to gather a special resource from one of the deepest parts of the ocean, after which he organizes a mission to South America to obtain the last piece, which is needed to complete the other Mass Device. But Destro ends up in the same place, and after some fighting, when Destro's force is retreating, Duke realizes that they have captured Scarlet and taken her with them. When that happens, Duke becomes more desperate to defeat Cobra's plans, so he goes through one more memory exercise with Doc, this time in a special isolation tank. In the process, he remembers the ring he gave Selena, which has unique electronic properties that can help the Joes track down Cobra. After this discovery, he and several other Joes teleport using their own mass device and launch an assault on Cobra's temple sort of lair. In the end, Duke reunites with Scarlet and Selena, which marks the end of his adventure. This series, you can say, lays the foundation of who Duke is and how much he cares about the work he does. The Mass Device miniseries is followed by the G.I. Joe Revenge of Cobra miniseries, which came out in the year 1984. You could say this series was more action-packed than the previous series. Here we see Destro and Cobra Commander trying to control the world's weather using a device called the Weather Dominator, because once they activate this device, they get to control natural disasters. But here is what happens next. After the Joes' counterattack, in which Duke is one of the leaders, it causes the device to break into 3 pieces, and now Cobra and G.I. Joe team have to race to bring back the fragments from dangerous locations locations, and that includes an ancient palace of doom and the roof of the world, which are nothing but the Himalayas. Duke again gets captured by Cobra and is again forced to fight in Cobra's arena of sport. When he is in captivity, Duke forms an unexpected temporary alliance with Baroness to survive, especially when they were struggling against giant tube worms. And throughout these series, Duke is seen working alongside Snake Eyes and other teammates where they are navigating through the dangerous location. But what you will mostly see Duke act as is the main strategist on the ground. There are some important episodes that show Duke in command, and one of them being the 1985 Christmas-themed episode from Season 1 of Sunbow Animation. What the main premise of the episode is that during this holiday, Cobra attempts to frame the G.I.Joe for attacking the city, and he does this by infiltrating the Joe headquarters in a Trojan horse sort of way. During this holiday season, Duke was in charge of the headquarters to ensure that the base is safe with automatic laser defenses and overseeing the toy drive. But after the Trojan attack, Duke is captured and is held as a prisoner, and Cobra Commander uses a synthoid to impersonate Duke. This impersonator Duke is shown on a monitor and claims to have placed Keystone City under martial law to ruin the Joe's reputation. In the end, Duke is freed by his teammates, and together they fight against Cobra's forces. But I have to say the real MVP was Polly the Pet Parrot. Duke in the 1987 G.I.Joe movie. I think nothing is more important than Duke's role and the lack of it in the second half. In the 1987 G.I. Joe movie, what we see is Duke testing out the broadcast energy transmitter, BET, in the Himalayas, and when Cobra tries to take it away, he manages to stop his attempt because he uses the BET against them and takes down Serpentor. We also see Duke getting on Lieutenant Falcon's case for ditching his guard duty, which ends up letting Serpentor escape with the help of Cobra La and the Dreadnoks. But later on we see a twist. Duke actually cuts some slack on Falcon during the court-martial, and this is where he reveals that he's actually Falcon's older half-brother. After that, determined Cobra makes another move to snag the BET. During this fight in which Duke gets seriously hurt while protecting Falcon, it's this cobra-headed spear by Serpentor that impales him. Scarlet holds him, and it's at this moment Duke tells Falcon to step up his game before he fades into a coma. But get this, in the original script, Duke was supposed to die in the fight, after getting hit by that snake spear thrown by Serpentor. Like production had really decided to kill him off, and they got this inspiration from the death of Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, which happens in The Transformers, the movie, as both films were being made at the same time. But here's the catch. When Optimus Prime died, this made so many fans upset that Hasbro quickly changed their minds about Duke's death. They kept the scene but added new dialogue saying that Duke fell into a coma. By the end of the movie, they mentioned him as recovering from the coma. I mean, I get that they might have wanted Duke's half-bro Falcon to inherit the hero duties, but leaving Duke's whole surviving thing as a ghost narrative really haunts me, because it seems like the glory that Sunbow Animation gave him was yanked away to introduce new members, I guess. Duke in the DiC animated series. Another place that Duke appeared was in the 1989 DiC animated series, where his character was voiced by Ted Harrison. But I have to say, he was absent most of the first season, and he barely appeared in like 5 episodes, out of which 3 were like silent, non-speaking cameos, and 2 were major episodes. His first major role was in episode 22, titled Mind Mangler, where Duke gets abducted by this Mind Mangler, which in reality is a funky sort of robot, and to keep up with the facade, Zarana disguises herself as Mangler's daughter. Disguised Zarna also accompanies them, but her real identity gets exposed, so she has to pull back. Duke then appears in episode 24 titled Stuck With You, where we see that Pathfinder, aka William V. Iannotti, who is Joe Team's jungle assault specialist and Cobra commander, crash landing in a jungle after a battle. When Pathfinder catches up to Cobra Commander, he handcuffs himself with him, and this forces them to survive and escape the jungle safely. In the meantime, it is up to Duke, Lady J, and Big Ben to rescue Pathfinder. When it comes to Season 2, Duke does appear more frequently, and he has a change in his look, like his hairstyle is a bit different, and other than that, everything is kind of the same. And here is something I noticed in this animated series, that the presence of Duke along with some of the original cast are significantly reduced or absent, like Duke's role as the central figure in Sunbow cartoon. Well, that kind of dimmed in the new DiC continuation series. And that's not all, even the team's composition changed so much that you will notice the edgier tone as well. It makes me think that Duke's prominence didn't come forth in this chapter, which is sad, I know, but I guess they wanted to include new characters and increase their roster. Introducing Duke in Devil Deuce Publishing. The Devil Deuce publishing of G.I. Joe comic series ran for 43 issues. It followed the story right after the disbandment of the G.I. Joe forces in the Marvel Comics. After a time, Duke started to work on covert missions for a secret government organization. While on one of these missions, which takes place around issue number 5, he comes across Major Blood and tries his level best to apprehend him. But after that botched mission, he gets the message about Cobra making plans to return and cause trouble again. So, Duke uses this important information and works very hard to bring back the G.I. Joe team. One thing that is different during this period is that Duke acts very distinctively from before. Like, you will see him taking bigger risks, and at times, he even puts his teammates in difficult situations. Here we get to see Duke working as the leader of the team, and he has been assigned an important task, protecting Washington, D.C. when the evil group Cobra is threatening the world with dangerous technology. Later, around issue 17, we witness Flint and the Baroness are both captured by the same organization while in Czechoslovakia. In response, Duke partners with Destro. Yes, I know he is a member of Cobra, and that's not all, even October Guard is there, and they form a united front and are seen working together to rescue them. When Hawk, the team's mentor, is injured during a Cobra attack in issue 37, Duke steps up to take on his responsibilities, which we have seen him doing whenever the situation called for it, and he battles against corrupt forces, all the while trying to keep the team united after the loss of their leader. Duke in 2008 IDW Publishing. What if Duke was a traitor? Hard to imagine, right? But the 2008 IDW Publishing, especially from issue 6 to issue 10, brings this arc that I have to say nobody expected. Mind you, this is a very bold step that IDW explores, and it was not a fleeting thought because there are some solid reasons that question Duke's loyalty. First, we see CoverGirl following him and discover that he has a wife named Aisha, who was admitted to this North Shore hospice in Long Island. The news was shocking not just for CoverGirl, but also for Roadblock when she discloses this news. What also doesn't add up is how Duke is paying for that expensive hospice. To make matters worse, a new threat emerges in the name of Michael Monk, who has kidnapped Aisha and has created 3 major hotspots where Cobra's forces will be attacking. And in one of those places, he will have Aisha, from where he could rescue them. Worried for his wife, Duke starts strategizing with other Joes, but is so distracted that people start getting suspicious and paranoid. Now, Duke can't really place who wants to wreck him so bad, when Destro from Scotland tells him who he is and where he might be located. Then again, Destro has this motive to get Monk out of this picture, which is why he helped Duke. Here is what made others more suspicious, is that Duke got a call from Destro, who is like Cobra Commander's closest man. CoverGirl gets alerted, so do other Joes, and they are like 100% confirming that Duke is the Cobra mole. But he is not. He's a guy simply trying to save his wife from Monk's madness, who by the way has turned Aisha into a human bomb. Duke clashes with Monk after he reaches the New York City Freedom Towers, Cobra's New York City base, and it is here we come to know that Duke and Monk served together years ago in the disputed zone of Trucial States. There, Monk killed unarmed men who were trying to surrender to get to safety, which got him court-martialed. While Duke is kicking Monk's ass, other Joes are also arriving thinking they would be arresting Duke, but things become clear, and he also confirms that he is not the mole. And in the meantime, Aisha is safe. In the last panel of issue 10, we see that Aisha has been moved to New Mexico Hospice, with Joes supporting her care. And it is in the same panel we see him trying to save the elder man who was shot by Monk while he and his family was surrendering. He tells Duke they were humble poppy farmers whose smuggling lines had been disrupted by Monk, so he was taught a mean lesson where they might have planted bombs where Monk's men were stationed, but before dying he directed him towards a place which was stacked with money. Safe to assume that it is the same money he has been using to treat his wife, a money nobody knows about, but finders keepers, right? Duke in 2010 IDW, Larry Hama continuation. Around the year 2010, Larry Hama did something very unique in American comics. He picked up the story of G.I. Joe exactly where it left off in the early 2000s. I know that sounds confusing, but what I mean is that when IDW Publishing got the rights to G.I. Joe, Hama wanted to return to writing G.I. Joe an American Hero number 155, continuing right from the point where the previous issue by Marvel left off. And it was as if no time had passed at all, as if the Joe's team was not disbanded. You can say he ignored whatever had come before from other publishers, and treated this as a direct continuation of the OG series, instead of a reboot or a fresh take on the characters. Other versions had taken the chance and changed Duke's character, like some gave him personal issues that he needed to confront, or made him so suspicious that Joe's started questioning his actions. But Larry's approach was pretty straightforward. He wanted Duke to be himself, just like he was. So he remains the leader of the team, dealing with challenges and chaos around him while maintaining his moral compass. You won't see him shaken up by responsibilities or going through dramatic transformations, because once Duke faces missions or responsibilities, he is serious about it. One thing you'll notice in Hama's writing is that he made Duke a dependable commander who holds the team together, and this was not done through flashy charisma, but through the trust he has built over the years, as well as his solid decision making. He is the type of leader who makes tough choices when the situation is dire, and carries the weight of those decisions without boasting about how hard it was to lead. Duke's character in the 2009 G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra live-action movie. The 2009 movie gave G.I. Joe fans something they've been waiting for a long time. A live-action movie featuring their favorite character. Duke's role was portrayed by Channing Tatum, who is the main hero and part of a special military team led by General Hawk. But here's the catch. Unlike his original background in the comics and toys where he is experienced and established, in the movie, Duke is shown as a rookie who has just joined the team. In fact, he even calls himself a captain, but you will see him wearing military ranks that suggest he should be higher up, creating some confusion among fans. This version of Duke has a complicated past. You see, he was once engaged to a woman named Anna Lewis, who eventually becomes the villain known as the Baroness. Duke left her on their wedding day because he felt guilty over the presumed death of her brother, Rex. This is the background, and the main story begins when Duke and Ripcord are on a mission to deliver dangerous nanomite warheads to the United Nations and NATO when they are ambushed by Baroness and her soldiers. And after the clash, the two of them are rescued by the G.I. Joe team, which is where Duke reveals his past connections with the Baroness. As the plot unwraps, Cobra attacks the G.I. Joe base, nothing out of the usual, and Duke races through Paris to prevent a warhead disaster but gets captured. And during this captivity, Duke discovers that the Baroness is actually being manipulated by her brother Rex, who is not dead and goes by the name the Doctor, who has been working for Cobra for some time now. Also, he plans to turn Duke into a Neo-Viper, but in the main moment, the Baroness helps Duke escape, and during the chaos, Duke injures the main villain, James McCullen. Now that Anna and Duke have reunited, they pursue Rex, who is now Cobra Commander, and McCullen, who is now Destro, with their team's support. I have to say, the past relationship between Duke and Baroness really added this depth to Duke's character that the cartoon didn't manage to capture. I know the movie focuses so much on exciting action scenes, but it often interrupted the emotional story before it could fully develop. Tatum portrays Duke as a sincere and strong character, but the script really doesn't give him enough quiet moments where we see his true feelings, which clearly tells us that the filmmakers had a good idea but didn't get to follow through with it completely. Duke in 2013 G.I. Joe Retaliation. Channing Tatum is back in this one, and it takes place right after the Nanomite Wars, and we get to see Duke Hauser becoming a captain and leader of G.I. Joe's elite team, with Roadblock as his second in command, and his team members include Lady J, Flint, and Snake Eyes. Duke and Roadblock have a really good bonding, and for a short time we see them having fun over video games. But that is interrupted by breaking news of the Pakistani president's death, creating a dangerous power vacuum. Zartan, secretly disguised as the US president, orders the Joes to retrieve Pakistan's nuclear warheads, and they complete the mission successfully. Zartan goes for the main neck this time because he orders an airstrike right at their base. Duke ends up sacrificing his life to save Flint and dies by the first half. Roadblock vows revenge for Duke's death, but after discovering his body, Lady J reminds them that he is now the leader and they must move on. So yeah, instead of a coma, they killed him off again. And there is some behind-the-scenes tea for why this happened. Apparently, reports state that Tatum's career has seen a massive rise in between these two 2009 and 2013 movies. Like, this was the time when Magic Mike made him a major star. So it was natural that the enthusiasm and availability he had for the franchise had changed. So the filmmakers and writers really didn't beat around the bush and simply wrote in his death. A death so trauma-inducing for his team that it motivated the surviving Joes for the rest of the movie. Nobody could have imagined that a character who had to be put in a coma so that fans were not disheartened was actually killed off in the second live-action movie because the actor was too famous. It really tells you a lot about how beloved characters are treated in live-action movie production. Duke in 2009 short animation, G.I.Joe Resolute. Resolute was a special short animated movie in which Duke makes an appearance and his character was voiced by Steve Blum. This movie takes on a darker, edgier tone compared to the ones you might have noticed in the Sunbow animation. It really seemed that this short-form movie was made for the adult audiences. What we see in here is nothing sort of new. Duke and the other members of the G.I. Joe team have discovered that Cobra Commander is trying to take over the world with a powerful superweapon. To carry out his plan, Cobra Commander sends his various henchmen around the globe. The commander you see here genuinely gives me the creeps because he legit gives off this mass murderer vibe, which was not something I expect in the earlier cartoon version. Anyway, as the story progresses, Duke gives Scarlet a choice, to either stay with him or to go with Snake Eyes, and she obviously decides to stay with Duke. Later, during a dangerous mission in Siberia, Duke gets hurt while fighting a villain named Zartan, during which he tells Scarlet to leave him behind and save herself, but she refuses to abandon him. Eventually, they are rescued by a fellow Joe named Ripcord. After everything he has gone through, Duke vows to take his revenge on Commander for all the trouble and chaos he has caused, which is why we see him leading the attack on Cobra's Springfield base. After many intense moments, Duke finally reaches the control room where Commander is hiding, and Cobra Commander, being Cobra Commander, brags about his weapon and how it can't be stopped from firing on Washington, D.C. However, at the main moment, Duke very nicely directs the weapon and it ends up targeting Cobra's own base. Even though the area gets destroyed and the Joes are evacuated, later reports reveal that when they return to the site, Commander's bunker was found empty, which only means he escaped in the nick of time. Duke across 2010 G.I. Joe Renegades. I have to say, Renegades is one of the most underrated versions of Duke you will ever come across in any of the medium. This version of Duke is more intense and his character is voiced by Jason Marsden. Here he is still the leader of the G.I. Joe team and is known for being honorable and straightforward, a guy who values the safety of his friends and family above all else, even though they don't agree with him. This time around, he is determined to reveal the true intentions of Cobra and his organization, no matter what the consequences are. But what he wanted to do for the world's good leads to him and his team being labeled as criminals after they take down Cobra Pharmaceuticals. In this series, we get a glimpse of Duke's past, especially in the episode titled Homecoming. Back in the day, Duke was part of a football team, and he had a rivalry with Flint's team, and during a game, Flint accidentally caused Duke to break his leg, costing him an important college scholarship. Sad, but that doesn't stop him because later, Duke is offered a chance to join the military, which leads him on his current path. It is in the episode The Descent which lays the foundation of Duke taking charge. So what happens is that Duke and his team are sent by Army intelligence to investigate this so-called terrorist attack at a Cobra facility, which turns out to be a front for all unethical science. And the cherry on top is that the whole team is framed for the destruction of the facility. Determined to protect his team, he and his team become a renegade team who are operating outside traditional military systems to uncover, more like expose, the truth and Cobra's organization. The ongoing Energon universe continuity. I have to say that the Energon universe by Skybound is one of the boldest 2023 relaunches of G.I. Joe. I mean, it has very flawlessly integrated the Transformers and other Hasbro properties like Void Rivals, making it this amazing shared crossover continuity, which fans are loving, by the way. And this is an ongoing work, so you can check it out if you were not aware of it. What's new is that this is the first franchise that has Duke headlining a standalone series within this live interconnected universe. Here we see Duke's character emerging from post-apocalyptic shadow of Transformers Cybertronian wars. After a traumatic encounter involving a transforming robot and a death tied to that incident, Duke becomes obsessed with uncovering the truth behind the alien technology. But he is determined to find the root cause, so he breaks protocol to investigate the origins of these aliens, which obviously puts him at odds with his superiors. After some digging, Duke uncovers links between the alien technology and an organization called Mars, which is under Destro most probably, and this right here sets up the foundation for the upcoming G.I. Joe vs. Cobra conflict. In the following issues up until 5, we see people behind Duke, both from Hawk's side and Destro's side, an unexpected alliance is formed between Duke and the Baroness. The last we get to see is Duke being pronounced dead for the whole world to know, which shocked me because I was mad that they killed him off again. But then I realized I was wrong because Duke is actually not dead, and he, along with Clutch, Stalker, Rock and Roll, as well as Baroness, become the most unexpected team-up to get deeper into who is actually behind these alien monsters. From all of these continuities, I can say one thing is that whenever the G.I. Joe franchise has been rebooted, the franchise has instinctively chosen to start with Duke, and that says a lot about him and what he represents. In the Sunbow series, they hero-worshipped him, and by the time the Renegades version came along, they humanized him. But now Energon uses him as the spotlight. But how long will this last until one fine day the writers forget their reliable Joe? That's such a paradox, and we have to live with it. So which origin of Duke do you most relate to? Like, which one gives off the most Duke vibes? Don't forget to share those in the comments section below. Until next time, thanks for watching!